So I was trying to install Ubuntu on an external SSD, and I went through the YouTube videos, and what everyone said was it will mess up the bootloader. So I remember 15 years ago, no, 10 years ago, yeah, 10 years ago when I got my first laptop, I tried dual booting Windows and Linux. So it was not that much of a deal back then. So because up until Windows 7, it didn't really matter. The Before UEFI came into place, it wasn't really that difficult to do these kind of things. So yeah, I was pretty. Before I got the Windows 10, I did it on multiple systems. It was not an issue. And the grub of the Linux would detect Windows by itself, and with Windows 8.1, sorry, not Windows 10, Windows 8 and 8.1, they decided that people shouldn't dual boot into Ubuntu. So yeah, I went online and I wanted to install Ubuntu. This is a word of warning for anyone out there trying, if you have seen Ubuntu and any Linux distro and you are like, I'm in software development and I should try it out, and that is partially true. That is actually true that you must look into Linux, because today or someday later you will have to go into Linux. So the thing is, don't do it on your main system. Certainly don't try to dual boot it on your main system. So if your main system is Windows, or I don't know if you can dual boot with Mac or not. Anyways, so on your main system, you do not do it. Windows 10 has Ubuntu for subsystems built in. So if you just Google that, you can Ubuntu subsystems for Windows. Sorry, Linux subsystem for Windows. WUML, I think that is. So I tried that. You can install the command line interface in Windows 10, and in Windows 11 you can install the whole text, the whole GUI also. I think it was XFCE desktop. So yeah, that you can do. The in Windows 10, if you want to use the GUI, so the tutorial I followed, I had to actually RDP into my own server. I thought it was a waste of time because I don't want to RDP to my own system, and I didn't want to upgrade to Windows 11, seeing how clunky Windows 11 was. I actually reinstalled Windows 10 and went back to it. So yeah, I didn't want to do that either. So the other thing was dual booting, and I didn't want to dual boot either. I know I have done this enough time that Windows doesn't want it, no one wants it, and it only creates problems, especially in bootloader. So I decided to install Linux on external SSD, not hard disk drive, and that is connected via the USB, not Thunderbolt or anything. So I thought I had to do that, and I searched for some videos, and as expected, the guy said there you will have grub issues, you will have bootloader issues, and that you will not be able to boot into Windows if you do not take that hard disk out. And it made me think, and now is the time I should share my screen also. It made me wonder why should it be a problem. I mean, I don't get it. The boot partition is on on a different drive. It's not on the same drive as the Windows. So the boot partition is different, and this is the install procedure. So I thought, let's just give it a try. If it breaks, it breaks. I don't care. So this is the external hard disk drive that was connected, and I booted with the USB. A USB drive I booted with, and I went ahead and I cleaned everything, and I put ext4 and just put that as the mount system and just install it. This is the Windows partition, as you can see, and if you see this EFI partition, SDB1, So this is the green one, and it contains the bootable data. It tells your system that that how to boot with this. Yeah. So the thing that I heard was that this will somehow mess up if you install Ubuntu on a different system, and I didn't get it. I thought it was he was bluffing, or I don't know why he was making such a big deal of it, out of it. I will not link his video. I don't think that's worthy enough. So the point is, my thinking was, since the EFI partition is already on my internal hard disk drive, and I'm trying to install different OS on an external hard disk drive, this should not move. This should not be affected at all, and that was the thinking I went into it. And so this is just the external hard disk. So I went into this, and oh yeah, this is after the installation. I let the installation done. So once the installation was completed, I clicked on try Ubuntu, and I just checked it. Did it do something to my EFI partition on my internal hard disk drive? As expected, if you are cautious enough, you should know which hard disk drive you are not doing it. It didn't do anything. It just installed simply, and I was able to boot into Windows. Now I have a few videos to show you too. So the first video is just a small clip, as you can see. So this is the SSD. This is right now. This is the SSD that's connected via the cable. This is the internal SSD. I just bought an SATA to USB connector. This is an HDD enclosure, and I bought it just because this was extra. My old laptop died. So Ubuntu was in this, the latest version, LTS version, and this SSD was empty. Okay, so that's how I booted into it. And after the installation was complete, this showed up, and I was like, I think I messed it up. But I went into continue boot, and I wanted to see what comes up. And when I saw this grub menu, I was like, oh fuck, I messed it up, didn't I? And I need to fix grub either by going into Ubuntu or by going into Windows. However, I went ahead and did a restart, and as you can see, I just plugged out the USB, trying to see what happens. As soon as I took out the USB, my internal hard drive was on the higher priority than the external USB. So the Windows booted just fine, no issues, as you can see. So by this time the OS has installed on the external drive. So I'm trying to restart it again. I will try to share something interesting. So I just did a bunch of restarts, and I plugged in the drive, and I was trying to figure out what was the key so that I can. So yeah, on the SR laptop, on some BIOSes, this is not there, that you cannot actually select a bootable drive on while booting up, but on a startup. But most newer motherboards that come, that will have a dedicated key just to select the drive that you want to boot from. Okay, not by actually going into the BIOS and changing the order of the boot, but there is a separate key just for that. So on my SR system, it was F12. So I pressed F12. I just let it boot, and so as you can see, I pressed the power key, and I pressed F12 a few times, and as you can see, in just a moment, both came up. So the Windows boot manager came up, and the Ubuntu Samsung SSD. So that is Ubuntu installed on the external hard drive that is connected by the USB, that came up. And I was concerned what will happen. So yeah, Ubuntu worked fine, no issues. I was concerned what will happen if I take out the USB after this. So I also checked the hard disk. So as expected, the internal EFI system of the Windows hadn't changed. Yeah, it was clear enough once as I was able to boot earlier. Now here I took out the external hard disk drive just to see what kind of error do I get. And when I booted it, as expected, sorry, I actually took out the cable while the system was shutting down. So yeah, now the cable has been taken out, and it is going to boot from the Windows system. So the expected behavior. The reason I made this video is because I wanted to document it, because I know a bunch of you will try to do it, will want to do it, and you will watch some guy on YouTube who will say that it is not possible, or you should take out all your hard drive from your system. Yes, remember, every time you are doing something like this, you're trying an OS, and if you are not careful, you will mess it up. But if you are careful, if you know what you're doing, you do not need to open your laptop, and you do not need to take out your internal hard disk drive just to make an external Linux bootable drive. That is the point of the video. Okay, and I've been using Ubuntu for a bit now, and I actually recorded this in OBS. Before I go, one more thing. NVIDIA sucks. Yeah, since NVIDIA doesn't have proprietary, doesn't share its drivers, so if you try to go into these settings, so this is what I did. The first thing that I did was I actually went into the additional drivers, big mistake, and I tried to select other drivers. Now I think I selected this one, and my GUI just stopped working, and I had to reinstall everything. I tried to fix it, but nothing worked. So I'm now not sure if I want to select this or not. Maybe I will, because it is a clean install, and I will let you know. So the point is, once you have it installed and you have an NVIDIA graphics card, if you want to change the drivers, do it right away before you actually start using the operating system. Okay, because after you start using it, because it can break your Linux, and it is a good experiment. I mean, for a developer, what actually pushed me to do this, it was a particular video. So if you remember correct, earlier what I did, I actually told you about the courses I was doing, and I also mentioned a playlist of videos that you should do, if you remember. So in that playlist there is something interesting, and I have no idea what it's actually called. It's something related to 128 languages. So if I just show you the playlist, this is the Programming Essential playlist, and this is the Art of Code, and 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1, and I hit ads. I will sign in later. So in this there is the 128 language. So there is a particular code. I don't know what it's called. What is called? I think, yeah, this is it. So it's called, what's it's called? 128 language Ouroboros Queen. GitHub name Queen or Queen. I do not know how to pronounce that. Queen. Yeah. So this is what actually made me, I should try. So what happens is, there is a Ruby code that if you compile, it will compile into a Rust code, which will compile into a Scala code, which will compile, and this whole thing will happen. And this the thing that he said in the video, which this guy said, was that you can actually do this in Linux. And let me show you the transcript. So you can actually do this in Linux, and you can install all these languages in just one line. And I think it is somewhere, I just remember it. So, and I thought, yeah, it is quite powerful, just to go into the command line and type something out and just install it. And here is the thing: if you are going to be a developer, you have to know things like that. I do not know all the commands, but and if I remember correctly, Notepad++ is not an included package, is it? I don't think it is. Sudo apt install. I don't think that is here. No, it's not in the local package, but I don't think Chromium is either. Maybe Chromium browser. Actually, I wanted to show you how easy it is to install something. As you can see, I am installing Chrome. And if I had put in -y in the beginning, I wouldn't even have to press Y that I will have to press now. So I thought it is a good thing. And from my experience, when you buy any server online, whenever you are in a web development company, or you basically do anything cloud, and the default operating system most of them come with is actually Linux. So it's good to know a bunch of commands. Kids, if you are new to computers, you should actually just go into Linux. You should deep dive into it. You will break a lot of things, and you will fix a lot of things. That's how we actually learn. If I had the access to Ubuntu when I was a kid, I would be, I would be in a much better place as a computer engineer. I can tell you that. The fact was, everyone I knew and everyone I saw only knew about Windows. So as you can see, Chromium web browser is installed, and it didn't even take me anything. And the system feels a lot snappy. So now I have an option. If I take this hard disk out, I turn the system off, I have the option to boot it to Windows. And when I go somewhere else, I can just take the external hard disk with me, and I can use any person's system to, go into it. Don't do it on thumb drives. Don't make the thumb drive persistent. Don't completely install Ubuntu or Ubuntu on a thumb drive. I have done that earlier. It is possible. The amount of read and writes a computer, the operating system will do, and that will shorten the life of the USB very, very quickly. Yeah. As you know, I don't care about the views or how many likes I get in the videos. So I speak when I think, as I speak until then when I think it's necessary to speak. I have tried a bunch of distros earlier. So the one that I stuck most with was Linux Mint, because back then in college, we wanted to get stuff done, and something that came with its own media encode packages and a bunch of applications, it made more sense back then. So Linux Mint, but I tried Ubuntu. Fedora never booted up. OpenSUSE I liked a lot. Manjaro wasn't as prevalent back then. Recently I tried Pop OS, and I thought, yeah, this is the system that I tried Pop OS on, and I didn't think it was as snappy as everyone else claims. It just seemed like it took a lot more resources on the system than it was supposed to. The other thing is that the reason I have installed it, as I made an earlier video, but I had to take it down, the memory issue that I was having. So I am trying to figure out if the memory issue my system has, is it specific to Windows operating system, or is it in different operating systems also? If the same problem, whenever there is more than 4 gigs of application being used, if apps are getting crashed, I will have known that it's actually my memory. If it doesn't crash here, it means that I did something wrong with my Windows operating system. I can't figure out why, what, but maybe. So yeah, thank you.